This is Stephanie from statisticshowto.com. In this video, I'll show you 4 different types of probability sampling. I'll also go over some of their advantages and disadvantages. A few quick notes about probability sampling before I discuss the different types. Probability sampling uses random sampling techniques to create a sample. For each element in the sample, the probability is known. In principle, every member of our population has an equal chance at being selected for a sample. This is achieved with a sampling frame like the one here, which shows every member of a population of 40 people. The odds of being selected for our hypothetical sample are the same for each person. That's 1 out of 40. If I were to use a non-probability sampling technique, I might just grab the people closest to me or choose the items in column A because it makes my calculations easier. Oftentimes, non-probability sampling methods are cheaper and easier, so why use probability sampling at all? Well, these methods give you the best chance to create a sample that's truly representative of a population. So let's take a look at our methods. Simple random sampling is, as the name suggests, a completely random method of selecting subjects. These can include assigning numbers to all subjects and then using a random number generator to choose random numbers. The members whose numbers are chosen are then included in the sample. The classic ball and earn is an example of this process. A major advantage is that simple random sampling creates samples that are highly representative of the population. A big disadvantage, though, is they're tedious and time consuming, especially when you're creating larger samples. Stratified random sampling is used when your population is divided into strata. That's characteristics like male and female or education level, and you want to include the stratum when taking your sample. These stratum may already be defined, like census data, or you might make the stratum yourself to fit the purposes of your research. As an example, let's say you had the following strata for socioeconomic status. You have 39% low income, 38% middle class, and 23% upper income. To get the stratified random sample, you would randomly sample the categories so that your eventual sample size was 39% taken from category 1, 38% from category 2, and 23% from category 3. Stratified random sampling has the distinct advantage it creates strata or layers that are highly representative of the strata or layers in the population. However, like simple random sampling, the major disadvantage is that it can be very tedious and time-consuming to create. Systematic sampling is very simple. You just choose the nth person from a list. You could choose the 6th person from a list, as in this example. You could choose every 7th, 10th, 13th, 100th, and so on. It doesn't really matter. It depends on what kind of sample you want and how large your population is. The advantage is, as well as being simple, it is highly representative of the population. A disadvantage is it isn't as random as simple random sampling. Why would this matter? If there is some kind of pattern in your population, then you'll probably introduce some kind of bias or error into your statistics. So if there is a pattern in your population, then simple random sampling is a better choice. Cluster sampling is used when natural groups are present in a population, for example, voting districts. Cluster sampling is typically used in market research when a researcher can't get information about the population as a whole, but they can get information about the clusters. At first glance, this sounds very similar to stratified random sampling. The difference is in cluster sampling, a researcher will only study selected clusters. With stratified random sampling, a random sample is drawn from each strata. Advantages of cluster sampling: it's convenient, easy to use, and it tends to be cheaper than other methods. A big disadvantage is that it may not work well if the clusters are not homogeneous. In other words, if there's a lot of variability in your population, this method may not work well. That's an overview of probability sampling. Check us out at statisticshowto.com, and I'll see you in the next video.